just to begin, this is a video on how to encrypt your save file, because every game has a save file. Because in every game we're going to want to save variables, and these variables have to be stored outside the game. Now, I've only seen GameMaker Studio save files in 3 ways, and that's because I haven't really used GameMaker Studio as long as other people might have. But the 3 ways are with an INI file, with a text file, and then there's a JSON file, which is pretty much the same thing as a text file. The problem with these 3 files is that they can be opened and read relatively easily, because when you save a text file, meaning when you use any save, it looks pretty much like this. Well, actually, let me just open a save file that I actually have. Give me 1 second. I'm doing this off screen because I gotta go into a private folder. Here we go. Alright, so this is what a save file would look like, pretty much. Except, of course, it would say, like lives and equals, say, 3. And then, you might have score or, weapons unlocked for, and different ways like that. Oops, just to follow the code. Look like that. And so when I open your save file, I can easily just, change this to 1000 or 100, and then change this to, say, 10. That way, I've instantly unlocked your game, or I instantly have granted myself 99 lives. Now, when your game opens this, because it looks pretty much untampered, it will just read these values, meaning lives, and then give the default, set the variables to match these keys. So I will start the game with 100 lives. I will start the game with 10 weapons, which might be all the weapons unlocked. Now, if you don't mind having your game getting hacked, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're like me, who wants the player to actually have to achieve in order to have the fun or have, whatever they're supposed to have, then you're going to want to encrypt your file. Now, a lot of people have talked about base 64. I definitely did when I first started trying to encrypt my save file, because I actually had someone who was out, who their literal job, every time I finished my game, was to see if they could crack my save file. So when I tried using base 64 to try to stop them, they showed me this, which pretty much just shows you literally how you can decode any base 64. So even though my save file was encrypted in base 64, it really didn't stop them from just literally looking up a datasheet of the decode version for base 64. And they literally just destroyed my game and dismantled it, took it apart. Another thing that I discovered existed out there is the GameMaker Studio 2 or GameMaker decompiler. And what this guy pretty much does is he takes, let me open up another file off screen and then bring it onto the screen, because this one I want you to see. So every game in GameMaker Studio that's made always has a data win folder. And that's pretty much where all the music, sprites, code, all that good stuff is saved in that data win file. This little guy here, this decompiler, will literally dismantle and destroy your game. It will expose everything. It's going to expose all your code. It's going to expose all your music. It's going to expose everything. So even if you did come up with an encryption, if you're using the VM compiler, and I'll show you where that is right here. See, VM, if you notice my YYC is down here. If you're using the VM compiler, then that means your game can be decompiled with ease. And once your variables are exposed, your game has no protection, like literally none. Because even if you somehow say you were going to be smart and you said, I'm not going to use the word lives, I'm going to use 4TK51, and I know this means lives. Well, all I have to do is open it up after I decompile your win file, look and see, oh, he uses 4TK51, but I notice it also says this when I achieve this many of that. So you know what? Let me just make this 100 anyway, and bam, now I have 100 lives anyway. So it's not really effective in terms of the VM compiler. Now the VM compiler is great for running tests because it is a very fast compiler. It doesn't, and it has a lot of room for errors. You can make mistakes and it'll kind of just read over it and run like it's no problem. You use the YYC, you're going to notice that it's going to start telling you, you forgot a semicolon, or you used a variable twice, or you left out a semicolon or a comma or a quotation or something else, the VM would have just naturally ignore. But the YYC compiler compiles your game based on a C++ encryption, either C++ or C hashtag, and that kind of makes the code, even when decompiled, jumbled and impossible to read. So that's a way to protect just the code in the game, meaning in the data win file. So if you use the YYC compiler, your code in the data win file is safe. However, your save file, which will look like this, is not. So I'm going to show you how to protect both the data win file and your save file. Now, to make an easy protected save file, it's really not that hard. I mean, it's a little bit time consuming considering I wanted to create my own encryption. They might have ones you can buy now or freeware, but I didn't mind making my own because I'm probably poor like the rest of you guys and don't want to spend money. So I made my own. We're going to take a look. Now, right here, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you can see it. I have load, I have save, I have encode, and I have decode. This last script is just kind of like a little catch type of thing to try to catch hackers and then crash the game continuously because they tried to mess with my game. Granted, you don't have to have that last script because it's just more so useless. So we're going to go ahead and open SCR load. Now, this looks insane immediately, but depending on what variables you need to save, this will differ. So honestly, this load script, is loaded immediately, like the minute the game starts. I'm just going to scroll down to here. Now I am using extensions, which, if you know anything about GameMaker Studio 2, extensions come in pretty handy. All these can be searched inside the Marketplace menu, if you just hit Open Marketplace, and I'm pretty sure they're all free to download, like I'm 99% sure, because I didn't pay for any of these. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And they come with some very useful, handy functions, like get program directory. So this allows me to save my file in the folder with the game, because apparently when you use an NE file, it saves it in a buried folder somewhere inside the C drive in your app data with the folder. It's kind of nutsy, but whatever. So just to begin, we're going to roll back a bit. Now, hopefully, you're a little bit familiar with GameMaker Studio 2, but even if you are, you probably may not know, or you may know about data folders or data DS maps. Now, just to try to give you a easy explanation, yeah, go ahead and download it. I'm just going to go to Google in the meantime, and just kind of put GMS2 DS maps. There we go. Yo. So a DS map is a structure that is exceptionally useful. No kidding. But it stores variables and keys and the value, meaning just like the way you set a variable in the create event, that's how you would set it in a DS map. You use the key and the value. So DS map works. You have to create the DS map, of course, and then to add values to the DS map, delete values. These are the functions that involve a DS map. Now the only ones that we're going to really be using is create, add, and delete, and perhaps find, as well as replace. That's another map we're going to use. So what a DS map does is it serves value. So first things first, we just want to I'm going to say what's happening right here. That way you can just try to get a quick understanding of it. So what's happening right here is first I get the file directory. Then I globalize the file directory from this local variable. Next, I create the loads file name, which means this is just saying if the file doesn't exist, we're going to create it, because automatically this function will create a file based on the fact that if one doesn't exist. Now up here, if you notice this load file name equals argument 0, this was because I was going to have my load file have different save names. So in other words, if I wanted to make multiple save files, I can have save 1, save 2, save 3, save 4, save 5, rather than having to copy and paste this whole script over and over again with different save names, all I have to do is just change the argument, which if I can show you where that is called from, which is the, oops, wrong one, manager. Ooh, it's a little embarrassing. Let me find this guy. Oh, I think it's in the start screen. Start screen? Yep, here it is. He's in the start screen. So this here, this is literally, the first object on the screen is literally the first object that runs the script. So the minute the game loads, the first thing it does is it loads all the main point variables that we're going to be using throughout the rest of the game. And that is, you know, in your case it might be lives or points or whatever the case may be. In my case, it was just a simple score, which is a percentage number. Now this, before I go any further, this system works only for digits, meaning if you have a variable and you want that's a variable that value is a string, this won't work. You want to convert it to a digit. So now, just going back here, if this is going to check to see if our file exists. If it doesn't exist, it will make it. And this is what it's going to do. We're just going to ignore these fakes because these literally just are made to throw the person off. These are the variables that actually matter. You don't even need to put these. It's just that I wanted to make sure that whoever tries to open my save file is going to see way more gobbledygook than if they just open it and see all the variables that are there that are important. Now, if you notice instantly, these are all local variables. I'm sorry, these are instance variables, which means their real value is this string. And here's why I do that. So if you notice it says score is 0, meaning scores for the level 0, scores for level 1, scores for level 2. Now you might have lives, whatever the case may be. This scores here would normally be this here. So in other words, if I have lives right here, it would show lives here. But the fact that the value is not a string, it's this long stretch of what looks like nonsense, that means this here is going to be this long stretch of nonsense. So that means instead of seeing this, or lives equals 100, I'll see, just copy a little bit of it, paste. I'll see that equals 100. Now instantly, there's no way in the world I can figure out that this means lives, or score, or weapons. So right then and there, I know the variable, not like the variable itself, is protected. The value isn't, but the variable is. Now to protect the value, don't save. To protect the value, we use the encode and decode script. Now if you notice, this is encode and then a number. So inside the encode is pretty much the same thing as what you saw above, which is this long string. And now if you notice, these local variables attached to this long string. Now the way this works, this encode script works, and this is pretty much the most important part, is that it takes the value that we put in, because if you notice at the top, it says value equals argument. It takes the value that we put in, meaning in case the value is 0, and it returns this very long string. So let's say if lives equals 3, I'm trying to move over, thank you. If lives equals 3, we go to, well, ours is progress. But yeah, say if we have progress. So let's say yours just says lives, just for the fun of it. If yours says lives equals, 3. It will take this 3 value, look here, say this is 3, because that's what this code does here. It takes the 3 value and puts back this value, and then saves that value. Yep, see, text right. Then it saves that value onto your notepad. And what it comes out looking is like this. Now that's pretty encrypted, wouldn't you say? And the thing is, if you change so much as one keystroke in this whole text file, the game will crash because it can't be read. So that means if I change even this quarter-inch thing, or this weird symbol, or any of these symbols, and I don't have a backup, instantly the game will just crash. And I'm going to show you what that looks like real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. So this is my game. If you notice, we got our save files or percentages at different things depending on the level. 61, 67. Now I'm going to make a duplicate of our save file. That way I have a safety. Now I'm going to go ahead and just say replace this. I'm just going to delete it. And say this, and delete it. And try to put, like, I don't even know where to put 0. Say maybe this equals 8. And now I save it. And now I close it. And let's see if I open it. It runs. But nothing's affected. If you notice. Because that just means it was one of the fake save files. Meaning one of the fake variables. But say if I were to try to like rewrite the whole save file. Say like the ending. Let me take some of the ending stuff and just delete it. There. Oh, I did it to the copy. Oh well. Let me do it to the original. Or let me just actually duplicate the original just in case. Say like I changed this to 7, change this to 8, change this to 9, and then save. You see that? Throws an error instantly. Because the reason being is that that whole string was messed up. And if any part of that string is messed up, go ahead and abort this. If any part of this string is messed up, then when it tries to decode the value, because the decode map is pretty much the reverse of the encode map, it breaks it. See, it says if it gets this value, then return to 0. If it gets this long string that equals 1, return it to 2. Return it to 1. So that means this long series of strings has to be the same in the encode. That way they're both exactly the same, like reference points. And this can decode or encode and then spit it out into the save file. That way it literally looks like a mess when somebody tries to play with your game or mess up your game. And I actually have created 2 games like that using the save encryption. That's one. The other one is Sonic Resurrection, which some of you might be familiar with. And this is a way more complex game. Sonic Resurrection, that is. I'm just going to give it a little boot. So for starters, I just want to say that Sonic Resurrection had... Oh, right. I forgot to load the save file. Yeah, it had a lot of bugs, but this save file, the encryption method that I've used it in all my games. I've never had anyone say they were able to crack it as of yet, because I always use the YYC compiler. It has 6 playable characters, which you can purchase, including Classic Sonic, which you can play as just for fun. You can have up to 6 different save files. And if I go ahead and beat one of these levels for you, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when the save changes. This game was way bigger than I intended it to be, and as a result, it probably will not get finished. In case you're wondering where the cubes came from, this game was based off Sonic Forces, so it kinda was influenced very much by that game. Oh, I just killed myself. Kind of a shame, because I had 10 lives, and then I lost one. Which kind of defeats the purpose. Oh, look at that, I got it right back. Now, you see that? It saves the 10 lives that I now have, and the rank. And if I go ahead and hit exit game, and then reopen it, I have 10 lives, and my score is saved. Now, if I were to quit this, and check a look at the save file, it still looks like gobbledygook. And that's just the way you want your save file to be too. So I'll go ahead and leave the encryption and the encrypt and decrypt scripts in the description below, so you can just go ahead and download that. You just simply copy and paste it onto any script in your game, and you'll be good to go, being able to create nice, proper save files like that. If you'd like me to just give up a template, then I think I could do that too. But for now, I'm just going to leave just those two text files in the description, so you can just download them, copy and paste them, and place them directly into your own game for your safety and security, so that your save file can never be hacked so long as you use the YYC compiler and this beautiful safe encryption system.